Hi everyone, welcome to this wonderful interview with Heather Jenkins and her lovely therapy dog Ebony. Let's say hello to Ebony.
Hi. Woof, woof.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So Heather Jenkins is a lecturer on our Post Qualifying Diploma in Counselling for Young People course at Iron Mill College. And we're just welcoming you today, Heather, just to get to know about your journey into counselling, a bit about the course and what people need to do to, get into the course. What's their sort of learning journey to get there? So we're just going to start off with, how did you get into counselling for young people?
Yeah.
How did your journey start?
Right. Okay. So I think my journey started way, 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 way back, probably from when I was a child. So I think the way that I feel about the job I do and the lecturing I do, I very much speak from the heart and from the mind of what I've learned as well. So if I start from the heart, so I've grown into a fascination into child psychology. And therapeutically supporting children from my own experiences as a child. So I am somebody that survived developmental trauma. I had difficult times throughout my childhood, and developed all sorts of different coping mechanisms, and some quite colourful ones as a teenager, to cope with that trauma. And so naturally, I think you analyse yourself, you work through things, and for me, there's a lot. We talk about the wounded healer. I kind of feel that that's an area that resonates quite a lot with me.
Yeah.
So that was my introduction into the fascination into child psychology, and then in tandem it was quite it's quite fortuitous in some ways, because as a teenager, of course, I would look into all sorts of different colourful coping mechanisms, risk-taking behaviour, all sorts of things to cope with the traumatic experiences you had. But I also became fascinated with studying, and I would say slightly addicted to studying too.
That's not a bad thing.
It was a good coping mechanism. It was. It
Yeah.
cancelled out a few of the other ones. It's a really good regulator. So as we know with trauma for children, often the traumatic experiences can stay in the right-hand part of the brain. The limbic system, the emotional part of the brain, is fired up, and the amygdala is much, much bigger. And often, we're responding in fight, flight, fall and froze, in that kind of terror state at times. And so finding ways to regulate is wonderful. And I think reading and studying and focusing is a great source. So that's something that was a huge resilience for me. And so from that, in tandem of really loving studying, because it helped me with my amygdala. So working in tandem for me was the reading and the studying was a great way of regulating, but it also fed my fascination and of my own journey. But it also really pulled on my heartstrings about how can I help others. Now we know that often we can go into that rescuing position. And for those of you that have looked into transactional analysis, I was the biggest rescuer out. So it was really good for me to then start my therapeutic journey for my own trauma. And so having transactional analysis therapy, working on inner child work, creative CBT, you name it, through university therapy, I have experienced some wonderful experiences of therapy alongside calming my amygdala and also learning about psychology. So all of that has culminated in this big passion for helping children, but also teaching. And now I'm in a position, after working with children and young people for about 20 years, who've experienced trauma, and on a lesser degree as well, anxiety, depression, and other difficult situations. I then wanted to share some knowledge with lecturing too.
Amazing. And what a journey.
Has been a bit of a journey, still is one.
Yeah.
For all of us that, I think for many of us that are still working with ourselves, it is a continuous journey. And it's something that I've learned to embrace and learned to use it as some resilience, I think, in the work I do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And how do you find the industry at the moment in terms of counselling for young people? Are you finding that you are busier now? What's happening there?
Yeah,
Because obviously with
yeah,
COVID and, you know,
yeah,
children being at home a lot more, has it had an impact on your work at all? Has it got busier? Is there more of a demand for
yes.
counsellors to step in this certain field?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I
Mm,
think there is definitely more of a demand for children that have already experienced loss and trauma. This has been another layer. So, therefore, it's another complex process for a lot of these children to kind of go through. But then you've also got other children that might not have ever experienced difficulties with their mental health,
mm.
and they are now. You
Yeah.
know, I've got two boys myself, and one of them is he's been quite anxious with all of the changes. Um, there's other children that are being referred to me that have not ever needed to access any support, but now do need the support, because I think this pandemic is, we've all experienced some form of collective trauma on a
Mhm.
different level. We all have our own stories, we all have our own triggers associated with it. And so I think that there is much more of a demand at the moment for therapists for children, and I do think the government are listening more to that. And I think
Mhm.
schools are becoming much more mental health aware.
Yeah, which is really positive, you know,
Quite,
to keep up to date with the news and see how that
yeah,
journey's unfolding. You know, something's
yeah,
going to give soon, which is
yeah,
going to be super
yeah,
beneficial for the recovery plan that's going to be
yeah.
put in place.
I think also because there's so much more information now about neuroscience and how we understand that a child cannot learn, cannot focus properly if they are triggered and they're feeling a high amount of anxiety.
Mm.
So we now know that SAT results, exam results, etc., are not going to be where they need to be unless that child's mental health is looked into and the child feels safe. So I
Mhm.
think more money, more resources is being put into mental health, and therefore there is so much more work out there for therapists, children and adolescent therapists.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. So obviously you're a lecturer at Iron Mill, but what else do you do in your sort of work life?
So I work in a school where I
Mhm.
work with children that have experienced developmental trauma, post-traumatic stress, and I also work with children who are neurodiverse as well. So they've experienced difficulties in their other school. They've been often most of them have been excluded. They've
Mhm.
gone through foster placements, and then they come to me. So then I work 3 days a week supporting those children, and I do a lot of creative therapy with them. I'm a big believer of using creative arts because,
Mhm.
again, as I've spoken before, it works with the limbic system, it works with the amygdala. We know that play and creative ways of working is a child's language. And
Mhm.
so a lot of the work I do is with metaphor. It helps a child process very painful experiences in a safe way. I also do loads of eco-therapy as well. I'm a bit of a fire builder. Me and Ebony
Yes.
always build fires with the kids.
Oh, nice. You can't beat a fire. There's something
No.
really special about it.
Yeah. And I think quite often I've worked with quite a few young men who are rape victims, and sometimes by them sitting by a fire and is able to just stare at the fire, for some reason it can be some kind of primal experience, but I get a lot more authentic communication from them when they're around the fire.
Mm,
A lot of healing happens around a fire.
yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? Just connecting with nature in general,
Yeah,
super
yeah,
beneficial, which is amazing to hear.
yeah,
So, the course that you lecture on,
yeah,
the post qualifying diploma in creative, well, counselling young
yeah,
people. Obviously, there's a creative side to that as well.
yeah,
How does someone get on board with that course? What's their sort of learning journey to be able to join the course in September this year?
yeah, yeah. I'm really excited about this course. I have to say, I will
Yeah.
probably get really excited when you ask me questions about this course. Um, So the course is there for people that have qualified as a counsellor. So they
Mhm.
might be working with adults and might have an interest in working with children and young people. So it's kind of their next journey after qualifying as being a counsellor with adults.
Mhm.
The course will, I'm teaching it at the moment. The next cohort should be September, October time. I'm very happy if people want to email me to ask me any questions about the course. I've
Mhm.
also put an open evening PowerPoint together. It's a PowerPoint, and I hate to do death by PowerPoint, but we're all kind of locked in our living rooms at the moment when we should be in the college,
Mm.
explaining all about the course and what I'm doing as well. So that can give you a flavour, but I'm very open to having conversations, and people have emailed me already about the course and the course content.
Brilliant. And people can find, well, if you're interested in messaging and emailing Heather, you can find her email address on our website under lecturers. So if you go to About Us and go to lecturers, you'll see the email address on there, which is really, really great. So what's the course all about? What are the modules? What can people
Yeah,
take from it? Obviously, it runs for 14 days over 7 months, which is
yeah,
really, really great in terms of if you're busy, but you still want to learn, it's quite
yeah,
suitable for that
yeah,
lifestyle as well.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
what can you expect if you were to join the course?
Well, okay, so it's taught over 3 different modules,
Mhm.
and if I go by each module, then it will give you a bit of a flavour of it all. So
Mhm.
the first module will be looking at child development and child developmental theorists, and giving you a really good foundation of the academic, theoretical underpinnings of us working with children and young people. And for me, I think it's really, really, well, I'm addicted to, studying, but I think it's really, really important for us to have that framework. And so we'll be looking at psychoanalysts, we'll be looking at Freud. Now, Freud is a wonderful theorist in the fact that so many theories have come from Freud. There's debates about how valid those theories are now, but the fundamental concepts are vital for us to learn. We'll be looking at attachment theory. We'll be looking at child development, stages of development. So many children that we'll be looking at will be ranging from 8 to 18. And the
Mhm.
different developmental stages of a child that is 8 to 13 is huge. And so we need to really focus on the cognitive, emotional development of those children.
Mhm.
And so we'll be unpicking each of those series. Now, I'm a big believer in making it real. And so, although I love reading my books, I love being out there and getting out there and being alongside a child through whatever trauma or whatever journey they're on in their therapy setting. And that's what I want to bring to the course. So I want to bring real life case studies. I want
Mhm.
to bring nitty gritty situations where you find yourself, okay, I'm in the therapy room now, and oh my goodness,
Mm.
where do I start with this? I want us to work with that, because
Yes.
for me, it's vital that we feel resourced and equipped to be able to help as many children as possible. And
Mhm.
so sometimes we can read in a book about disorganized attachment patterns. What does that actually look like?
Mm.
What does that look like when a child's coming into you and they're fragmented? So in 1 minute they might be saying something to you, and then something else is something else. What does that look like? And I want us to play with that on the course. So I want to
Yes.
bring academia to life and apply it to the here and now.
Absolutely. And excuse me, the beautiful thing about all your amazing experience is that if someone was to join this course, they'll get to learn your enriched, journey with working with people, which is super important, which is like almost like an added bonus, really, to coming onto this course.
Yeah, I mean, the other part of it is that we really want to be able to, and in a safe way, and I've been very, very mindful of that with this cohort
Mm.
and this pandemic, is that we need to be working with our own inner child and inner young person. And
Mhm.
so it might be that a few people joining the course, like me, have come from that kind of organic experience of experiencing pain and trauma yourself.
Mhm.
But it's vital that we have worked with our own inner child and young person so we don't project. And
Mhm.
so a lot of the triad work and the skills practice work will be experiential. So,
Mhm.
for example, one of the exercises that I do on teaching attachment is we look at our own attachment patterns with plasticine. We create ourselves as a baby. We create ourselves as our main attachment. Where does it sit now?
Mhm.
Is it, how are we feeling about when we move that around? Where is have we still got an insecure attachment pattern? And if we have, that's fine. That's okay. everything's okay, but are we aware of our insecure attachment pattern? And by working with the creative arts, in my opinion, it's magical, because you can get all of that material that's inside you out.
That's amazing. And would you sort of suggest any other ways of creatively expressing yourself? Obviously, you mentioned, you know, using sort of certain tools there, but is there anything else that comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, on the course, again, what I try and do is the triads in the afternoon are a chance for you to embed the learning that I've taught in the mornings. But I invite all the students to play and use creative methods. So this is just an invitation, but I provide lots and lots of activities that look at different creative ways. So we've worked with mandalas. So it might be that you create a mandala for your critical, with the critic part of you. I'll encourage you to work with clay. When we get into the college, I'll be bringing sand trays in. So I'll be bringing lots and lots of creative activities, which will be an invitation. It's not compulsory, but it'll be there if you want to play with that in a safe environment to work with your own inner child, or also to be working with the ideas of the course in the therapy sessions with children.
Brilliant. This sounds like a really great course. It seems like
I
you've
love
got,
it.
yeah. I'm glad you do. I'm glad you do. You can tell that you know, this is your passion and you love it just from the way you're speaking. And it's just nice how there's so many different areas within these 14 days that people are going to learn how to express and work with young children, which is amazing, but also work on self too. You know, that's all part of the parcel, isn't it?
Yeah. And then going on to the next two modules. So the second module is about children and young people's wellbeing. And so I'm really keen to get the latest research on neuroscience. We are so lucky that we have had some incredible theorists out there, Bessel van der Kolk, Stephen Porges around the polyvagal system, on how our bodies, our sensory being respond to trauma, which cognitively we just can't regulate, and how we can use, again, the creative arts to access the part that is very hard for children to access. So I've got some really good video clips of those people and how we integrate their thoughts and the latest research into why are children suffering with addiction. I've worked with a lot of young people in high risk situations. For some reason, I end up working with the highest risk. And so we'll be looking at addiction to alcohol, drug misuse, psychosis, internalized ways of coping, as well as externalized ways of coping, eating disorder, etc. And so that module is going to be very, very current and very kind of just up front with what we have to deal with now as therapists. I do feel that in our tier system of 1 to 4, if we're looking at the CAM system, tier 3, 4 is often the children that are really, really struggling and need to be seen in a multidisciplinary kind of process. Therapists are more 1 to 2. We're seeing more 3s. We're seeing a lot more 3s. And I think that's understandable, and that's nobody's fault, but that's what's happening. And I really want to be able to equip the students with, it's okay, because this is what we're seeing with children that are tier 3, if they're suffering with eating disorders or if they're suffering with addiction. Let's work through it together. But then let's look at policies, procedures. What do you need to do in this situation? What can we do with clinical supervision? And I draw on a lot of BACP articles of guidance. We draw on Department of Health guidance. You know, we know how important it is with the sad situations of Baby P and Victoria Climbié. And as I was a social worker before I did this job, I'm very, very aware of the systems around children. So it's important for me to be able to work with the students about policies and procedures. That's the second module.
Should we go for the third?
And the third one. The third one's really creative. So this is where we're going to be bringing all the theories to life. So It's really focusing on the humanistic approach. That's the most vital part of the relationship you have with the child and young person is so key. It's without that we can't move forward. And so we'll spend a good chunk of time on really embracing that, looking back at Carl Rogers, looking back at Axline, non-directive therapy, the space, the energy you can create with the child. And then we'll be going on to looking at creative CBT. CBT sometimes has a bad name. I think creative CBT can be wonderful. We can play with it. We can bring it to life. Gestalt, drama, role play. So we'll be having some students that will be role playing with the different parts of themselves. So we can use psychodrama within that at times as well. I won't be teaching drama, so I'm not a drama therapist, but we'll be doing role play through Gestalt. We'll be looking at therapeutic stories. Ebony here, just waking her up. She's featured in so many of my therapeutic stories. This one also doubles up as Captain Woofaka in so many therapeutic stories.
That's brilliant.
And the children love it because she meets their sensory needs on so many levels.
Yeah.
Her featuring in a story for them is incredible.
So basically, everyone needs to get a therapy dog.
I would recommend it, Ebony.
That's great. Is there anything else to module 3 at all, or?
Yeah, I mean, again, there's going to be lots and lots around ideas of how to work with different children and young people at different ages. I've had quite a few inquiries about will the course be looking at adolescents as well as children? Of course it will do. A lot of my experiences with adolescents, but we'll be looking at ways to engage an adolescent, but be able to engage their inner child within their adolescence, if you like. So there's different strategies that we can do to engage a child, but then different ways to use different theoretical ways to help them process. Brilliant.
Well, that all sounds very exciting, and thank you for sharing this enriched experience that you've had, along with, you know, what a person needs to do in order to join the course and what they can expect. I think we have covered anything and everything even. So is there anything else that you want to share that comes to mind before we sort of wrap up this wonderful interview?
No, I mean, it's just, I think the experiences I'm getting from the students that I've taught it's a great space to be able to practice new ways of working with children and young people. Sometimes I think therapists can be a little bit nervous about working with children and young people because it can be quite different from adults. It's a great arena to bring those worries, practice it, work through it. We know with resilience for our children, well, for therapists, for our growth mindset, we need to come with those worries, we need to come with those anxieties, and we need to practice it in a safe place. So that's what I kind of want to reassure people, that I kind of want to have a nice nurturing place where we can play through things. If we get it wrong, I get it wrong loads of times, it's fine. Let's play through it and then develop our confidence to be able to give the children, that there's so many out there at the moment that need the support that you can offer.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time, Heather. And
that's okay.
Like we said, if you go onto the IML website and go onto the About Us section and then go to the Lecturers tab, you will find Heather's email address there. If you want to email her with any questions, you're more than happy to answer them, aren't you, Heather? So that's wonderful.
Yeah, and absolutely.
If you want to read a bit more about this course, it is on our website as well. And if you have any queries, you can speak to our inquiries team, which our email address is all on the website as well. So Heather, thank you so much. Great to speak with you, and I'm excited for the students to come on board your course. It sounds amazing. So
thank you.
We will speak to you soon, I'm sure, and have a great day, and we'll speak to you then. Bye.
Thank you, Faye. Thank you. Bye. Bye.